Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is campeón! All creatures great and small.
Rothrock going to collect it. He does just about. Runs into the advertising awning. Low to our left. Ball goes in. Oh, what a cross! And what a goal!
Where's my copy?
I got a bunch of them in the car. I'll get you some.
You're handing them out for free already.
How many
cost on them?
$50.
I'll Venmo you.
This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network, sponsored by Full Pull Wines and our subscribers. We're recording on Monday, August 10th, 2026. I am your host, Jeremiah Shan. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Aaron Campo, and our engineer, Lickett. Ooh, big sigh, big sigh. Finally, after 3 whole months, we're going to talk about a Sounders win. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And it should be noted that Queretaro rotated their lineup and had, at best, questionable motivation in this game. But a 3-0 win is a 3-0 win, and it sure as heck beats losing. Aaron, how would you describe the way you felt at the end of this game?
I mean, it was a relief in a sense. I am famously checked out on this competition.
Yeah, fair.
I think my mantra last year was, look, if they get to the final, I'll care. Until then, I don't care, and that is, largely held true. I don't think they're getting to the final this year, so I'm probably not going to care too much. But it was nice to see them score goals again. It was nice to see them control a game again. I think that there was a very palpable sense of relief after that first goal, and I think after that first goal, they looked a lot more confident. They looked a lot more relaxed in the way they were going about the game. So, it's a relief, but it's also, it has to be said that if they hadn't won this game, I think you've really got to start panicking. Like, you really got to start bailing out the boat at that point, because this is a game that they just,
I mean, if they didn't win this game, you were almost looking at a guaranteed 10 straight losses, because if they couldn't beat Queretaro, they were going to lose to Chivas. And they were probably going to lose at home to Vancouver, and then their next opportunity to win would have been at home against Austin, which in a normal world you think that's a win, but hey, they just lost to Austin, so who knows, right?
Yeah. So I feel like in that sense they kind of had to win this game, especially seeing the lineup that they were up against, and they did. To their credit, it was very comfortable. This was not a good team they were playing, but the Sounders did not have a very good team on the field, right? I mean, they had a lot of rotation. They've already got a bunch of guys out to injury, as we all know. So that was a relief. Obviously, some things that happened towards the end of the game took a lot of the shine off of that relief. Losing Pedro de la Vega felt like, I mean, it's a sucker punch, man. I don't know how else to put it. It was so exciting to see him back, and it's just, I think everybody had to sort of take the approach of just being excited and not being too nervous, and then he goes out with a muscle injury 5 minutes in. And we talked so much last year about how this knee injury was a fluke thing, and it's not a signal that he can't stay healthy. And I think that's true. I think it's similar to Jordan Morris's shoulder injury, right? Like, those are both freak injuries that don't have anything to do with fitness or anything else. It's just bad luck, and you deal with it. But then for both of them to come out and very soon into their first game back from injury,
Mm.
they're going out with muscle injuries. And it just makes me wonder what the hell these guys were doing during the break, man. It's crazy.
It is a real concern. I mean, this is at least, I want to say at least the fourth time that a player has gone out within 10 minutes of entering the game. And look, that's bad. That's really bad. And I don't know if that's bad luck or if it's something that's going on in training. The Sounders have said they are looking into various training habits to see if they're, overcooking guys or just not prepping them. But, I think one of the big concerns, like you said, is they looked so bad against Portland that it looked like they it looked like they were coming out of preseason. It looked like they hadn't really done anything in the month and a half off that they had. And I don't know if they fully recovered from that yet. This was the first game where I think they did look like themselves. And we can, we'll get into some of the positives, but we may as well deal with this Pedro de la Vega thing first. I will say we have a story coming out in the next day or two on Sounder at Heart from one of our sometimes contributors, but he's someone who has done a lot of work in sort of charting injuries and comparing it across the league. And what he came away finding was that the Sounders are more injury prone this year than most teams in the league, but the difference between where they are and where the average, so the average is something like 3.6 players are missing per team per week, and the Sounders are at 4. So it's not like it's a crazy variance from the norm. But the Sounders are on the high end of injuries this year. And so it's like I said, it's probably within the range of it being kind of bad luck, but it does seem like it's a recurring thing. And I don't know. It's been said by a lot of people that they should be asking these questions, and best I can tell, they are. I just don't know that there's an easy answer. What I can say is that the Sounders put as much resources, at least from what I can tell, again, I'm just on the outside looking in, but from what I can tell, they have something like 12 people who are full-time either physios or sports science staff whose job it is to basically keep these guys healthy. And they have all this state-of-the-art equipment. Part of the pitch of Long Acres was that they were going to have better access to fitness equipment, all these bells and whistles. And it doesn't seem like it's done a lot of good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really doesn't. And I think too, it feels like it's always like a key player, right, that's being hurt. And I mean, maybe the biggest miss right now is somebody we can't really blame the Sounders for, because it's Christian. And he was hurt while he was on national team duty, and it sounds like he probably got re-injured trying to get healthy enough to play in the last game. So that's not really one that you can put on the training staff. But for me, it is the injuries, and it's the re-injuries especially, and it's also just like you said, just the what seemed to be like a lack of actual match fitness coming out of the break. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, and I'm not blaming anyone, but I think for the first time, and we've been having this conversation for the entire run of this show, right? And for the first time, I'm not comfortable saying, look, this is just randomness. Like, maybe it is just bad luck. Maybe it is
right.
Randomness, but there feels like there's more smoke here, that there's something going on. And I'm not saying like anybody's not doing their job correctly or whatever, but it just feels like something that I'm hoping they can get to the bottom of, because it's a big problem.
And I hate to use this sort of device, but it is a thing that everybody is talking about, and it's inescapable at this point. And look, the Sounders can't just put their head in the sand and say, well, it's bad luck. They've got to be looking into this. And I think they are. I'm not, again, I'm not saying we need to start firing people or anything like that, but something is off and it needs to be addressed somehow. And it could just be as simple as they have a lot of older players. They're playing a lot of games, and injuries happen. They've also signed some players that have questionable injury pasts. So maybe it's all this confluence of things. And look, that's a viable explanation. It's just that it's tough one to swallow. It hurts even more that Pedro looked good in the brief time that he was out on the field. He came really close to scoring a goal, which I guess in hindsight would have only made it hurt more. Kind of
right.
If he had actually scored that goal, which was, but he brought some energy. He looked good. He looked really good. But we're going to find out probably tomorrow how serious this is. So we don't have a diagnosis. Maybe it's not serious. Maybe he's back in a couple weeks. I don't know. But the way these things go, it seems like, we're probably going to be talking about this in a month and saying like, okay, is he back for good this time? So fingers crossed. But yeah, I mean, as it is, Yamar is out, Christian Roldan is out, Jordan Morris is out, Paul Areola is out, Hassani Dotson hopefully will be back soon. But right there, that's 4 or 5 guys that are pretty key members of your roster. Alex Roldan is just working his way back. Alex Roldan played in this game. He got his first start since April, I believe, and he looked fine. I was not enamored with him in defensive midfield. I actually thought he may have been one of the weaker players out there, all things considered. I was not really blown away by anything that he did. I will say that Peter Kingston, who was his partner, was not necessarily great in possession, but let's maybe talk about some of the positives. His pass was really what opened up the first 2 goals. And all 3 goals were really nice team goals, in part because they were the kind of movements that the Sounders have been unable to pull off at all during the 7-game losing streak, where they were able to get the ball going downhill. They were attacking the opponent goal, and they were able to get the ball into the attacking phase without slowing down. Like they were able to sort of force the defense back onto their heels on all 3 of those goals. But let's talk about the first one first. The Sounders broke some pressure, which is something that they also have not done really well. And the key pass in that one was when Peter Kingston found Sebastian Gomez sort of up the wing, and then Gomez carried the ball forward 25, 30 yards and then continued his run, most importantly, and then was able to put himself in position to finish what I have to assume was a somewhat blind cross from Paul Rothrock. I don't know that he had any way of really seeing that run being open, but it was the ball got to Gomez in stride, and he just put it through the goalkeeper's legs. It was a really nice goal, something that we just have not, that kind of movement we have not seen from the Sounders really at all for months.
Yeah, it was a great move, and I do think that maybe there's something to the fact that the guy that was able to get on the end of it and put it away was a guy who hasn't been playing much, right? Who maybe doesn't have as much of the weight of this run. And I mean, hey, if you get a start in a competition like this, and you are a guy like Sebastian Gomez, who is very much on the periphery of the first team, it's tough to do better, I think, than he did to make a first impression and just to, I think, make an overall solid impression. It was a really good finish. Queretaro's keeper was an interesting fella. I would love to play against him every week. He made some very questionable decisions.
He made some real questionable decisions.
Yeah, but I don't want to take anything away from the finish. It was a nice finish, a really good run at the back post. The kind of run that look, we've talked about it a lot. I love Jesus Ferreira, but he's not making that run. And if he makes that run, he's getting to the ball, getting to the end line, and stopping and trying to find the cutback. It was so nice to see somebody over on the right hand side, make that far post run and
make the
score.
run.
Yeah, just make the run, man. Yeah. Just make the run and then shoot the ball at the goal after you've successfully made the run. And look, I know that Gomez is not the answer to any of the problems necessarily, but I would like to see him get some more minutes, especially while the roster is still kind of thin and guys are injured. Like he has a skill set that I think the Sounders have been missing. He has a lot of confidence to his game. He's willing to take guys on. And it was, it was refreshing. It was effective in this game. I mean, going up against better competition, he's probably not going to have as much luck. But like, you can't really convince me that this team was that much worse than like that Austin team we played, right? So,
no, not at all.
Yeah, so I would definitely like to see him get, or Portland, yeah, for that matter. So yeah, I'd like to see him get some more minutes. I do like him better on the wing, I think, than in central midfield, at least at this point. But
yeah, sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
great. It was a great team goal, and seeing them score on the counterattack again was just so nice. It feels like it's been forever since we saw that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then the second goal was also made by a Peter Kingston pass. This time it was really a gorgeous ball. Left-footed through ball. He cuts out fully 2 lines of defenders. You could maybe even argue it was 3 lines of defenders because it was hit from so deep. And it hits Rothrock basically in stride. He's able to just sort of, he puts it between 2 defenders in particular. Rothrock is able to get there first and then hits a first-time pass to Danny Musovski, who again was also just making the run. And the goalkeeper was, I don't know if he was out of position, but he was definitely in no man's land. And he seemed to be basically, because of the pass that Kingston makes, I guess that forces the goalkeeper to respect the possibility that Rothrock is going to shoot that. And so he's coming off his line to play the Rothrock shot. And it was also in the middle, a part of the field where he could theoretically shoot from. But Rothrock, of course, passes it, and that leaves Danny Musovski. Essentially, all he has to do is tap it in from 14 yards. When I first hit that, I honestly thought he missed the shot, and I was going to lose my mind. But he made it. So, look, full credit to Musovski. That is the first goal that a Sounders starting number 9 has scored this year. I told him about that in the postgame, and he acted like he had never. He was like, "Oh, I have 4 goals. I don't know about everybody else." I think he may have
but you didn't start.
That.
Yeah,
no, but
you didn't start in any of those other games,
Danny.
Right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Danny Musovski's an interesting cat.
He seems it. That was a very 2025 Danny Musovski goal too. Like, just you put yourself in such a good position that your finishing doesn't really matter,
Right.
And I saw someone, not to call out readers, but I saw someone in the comments say, "Look, I'm not that impressed by that finish because all you got to do is like not mess up." And it's like, but that's a lot of what being a good striker is, right? Is like getting into those positions,
yourself in a position,
where it's harder to.
A lot of guys have not. The reality is that the Sounders haven't scored a lot of goals like that this year.
Yeah,
because they haven't been able to generate those chances. So I don't really care that he fell into the ball or whatever you want to say. Like, I mean, he didn't, but he deserves credit for making the run. Rothrock deserves credit for making the pass. Like I said, I think Peter Kingston did the bulk of the work to create the chance. But it's a good goal, and again, it's an opportunity. It's another example of the Sounders sort of forcing defenses to react. And I had honestly got to the point where I wondered if they were capable of scoring in transition anymore. They had been so rarely in these. I guess it's not technically transition because they're not going from offense to defense, but they are forcing. I don't know what the right. They're scoring at speed. I don't know what the right way to. It's a fast break. I don't know. Whatever. But they were not putting themselves in positions to take these kinds of shots for months, literally for months. And so just to see them do this was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whatever you want to say about Queretaro, every time I say it, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. So I'm sorry, but whatever you want to say about the level of competition, the Sounders
closer though
have not. I watched a video before this, and I think it got in my head of how to say it right. the Sounders have not shown that they are capable of pulling off those patterns of play against no defense, right? Like if you're just running like scripted plays in practice with nobody in opposition, I would not have trusted them to pull it off. So to see them do it against actual honest to God professional soccer players was very encouraging. It's a proof of concept. And I think that so much of this run has been a lack of confidence, like especially at Portland away. The Sounders did a lot of things right in that game, and then they just looked so completely bereft of confidence when they got into the final third. And I think having, hey, like we can actually score goals. We just scored 3 of them. That's only going to help them go forward. They're not going to do as much second guessing, hopefully. And I'm begging for any reason for positivity right now. So I'm going to lean into it.
Yeah, look, I think that's sort of where we are right now, right? Is like you got to sort of take what you can get. And right now, this is what the Sounders are. This is who they are, right? This is what they're capable of. And if that means that they are, like you can't look gift horses in the mouth. The Sounders are not in a position to be choosy about who they are beating. And this is a start. That's kind of what I wrote today when I wrote about this game is the Sounders needed to start. They needed to start their turnaround somewhere. And that it came against a questionable opponent is fine. Now, how do they do against Chivas? That's the next big question. Can they build some momentum going into Vancouver? We'll see. But then we might as well talk about this too. The third goal, again, kind of a similar play, not quite as transition-y, but similar in that Jesus Ferreira plays a nice ball to Musovski, and Musovski made honestly a great turn and a nice move to open himself up, and then he put across through the box that found Gomez. Gomez did not panic, and he makes a relatively simple pass to Rusnak, who scored sort of a vintage Albert Rusnak goal where he opens his first touch opens up a little bit of space, and he hits just a really nice shot inside the far post. And look, getting Albert Rusnak going again, pretty important if the Sounders are going to do anything at all this year. And I mean, just make the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he has to contribute and not just looking pretty good. Like I thought he looked pretty good against Portland away. Nobody looked good against Toluca, so I'm not counting that, but I thought he looked pretty good in this one. But him actually getting onto the score sheet matters a lot. And that, that like low just pass into the net, he hasn't taken that shot this year. Like he hasn't shown a willingness to shoot and to even attempt that, which is like, as you said, a very vintage Albert Rusnak move. So, the fact that he's taking a shot is a good sign to me. A better sign, obviously, that he's putting it into the back of the net. But I thought he looked really good in the attacking phase in this game. He's one of those players that the line between a very effective Albert Rusnak in the buildup, especially, and a not very effective Albert Rusnak is a lot finer than you would like it to be, because it's just so much of his game is tempo and controlling possession and ball control generally. And it's like 1 or 2 bad giveaways are the difference between a good Albert Rusnak game and a bad Albert Rusnak game, because his ability to control the ball in difficult situations and allow them to, be a little more aggressive when he has the ball in midfield is a big part of what makes the offense work when he is playing well. And he looked very comfortable in this game, at least in the attacking phase.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Defensively, we're not the first people to point this out, but Albert Rusnak was never a particularly active defender, but he had 0 defensive actions in this game.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, I guess, in some ways, it wasn't super necessary. And he seems to put himself in positions to sort of like be defensive. He's not getting into tackles a lot at all. I don't know. Is this something that we should be worried about? Or is it like, look, I mean, he's definitely not Nico Ladero. Let's put it that way in his sort of all action play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it necessarily. I'm looking now to see what his defensive actions were like in previous years. I mean, they're down this year, but they were never good, like you said, right? Um, so that's it is what it is. I would obviously love for him to be a little more active and a little more involved in the press. I do think he is pretty good about getting in the way. So he's not taking a defensive action necessarily. It's nothing that's going to show up in statistics, but he is cutting off passing lanes and just generally being a nuisance. But that's really damning with faint praise. I'll be honest. I think if anything, maybe he is being given the given the grace to not be as involved defensively because he is
Yeah.
most likely carrying some kind of chronic injury. So maybe that's part of it. They're just telling him concentrate on attacking, and being involved in the attacking phase. I don't know. But I do think that it's very common to hear that they should consider moving him back a line, and you can't have a guy that plays like this in a double pivot.
I mean,
If they wanted,
he's really ball secure, but you can't
For
have
sure.
someone who does not play defense in the
No.
double pivot.
I mean,
right?
if they want to go to a system where there are 2 8s and a 6, he can be one of the 8s probably in that system. But then you're not playing, like, that's a whole other thing, because then you're probably playing without wingers, and they're just not going to do that, right? So do you really want him in there with Snyder Brunel as your shield for the defense? Man, I don't think you do. I really don't think you do. I mean, last year he averaged 1 defensive contribution per 90. This year he's like 0.9 defensive contributions per 90. So this is just kind of the guy he's been for a while.
Yeah, I mean, and even going back to 2024, it was 1.32.
Right.
And look, I guess on some level, it's also worth noting that for the Sounders have not suffered defensively as a result of him. They're consistently one of the best defensive teams in the league. So, I don't know.
I think the biggest thing is that I think they want to be more of a pressing team than they can really be with him.
And he does.
But,
and he has some, like his possession one in the final third is like, that's where his defensive to the degree that he has defensive contributions, that's where they are.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. At this point, this is not the Sounders' biggest concern. I don't know why I felt like getting into it, but I guess it was worth mentioning that
it feels notable.
It's notable. Exactly.
Yeah.
I also say that there were, for as convincing as the scoreline was, and as much as they felt like they controlled the second half enough to a degree large enough that I was never really worried about the result, there were a lot of moments in the first half, especially until they got their second goal, that it was pretty dicey. Like I'll tell you, the person I am a little worried about is Jackson Reagan, who, this is a guy who was best 11 last year, or I think he was best 11. I think he was best 11 last year. And
I think so.
He's been a finalist for Defender of the Year. He was in the All-Star game this year. And he has looked like absolute crap ever since the break. And I don't know what to make of this.
It's very strange because earlier, as I was reading through our notes for the show, I was thinking, well, he's played a lot and he, maybe it's a fatigue thing, but he just had 2 games off. So I don't think it's that.
For a dumb red card.
Yeah, it's very concerning because he's a guy that the Sounders need to feel like they can build around. And so this is just a dip in form. I'm not like to that point yet where I'm like, what have we gotten ourselves into here with this long-term contract? But he's got to turn it around, man. I think that Yamar coming back would probably be helpful because I think as good as some of the replacements have been, Tino has been, I think, better than we could have expected. Alex has been good when he's played in that spot. Kim Keehee has been good when he's played in that spot. Yamar is a really good partner for Jackson, and I think if this is Yamar's last year, they need to go out and find somebody who has a similar skill set to Yamar, because I think that we are kind of seeing that Jackson's game does have some holes in it, and when there's not somebody there that can complement him and cover some of those holes, it can be a bit of a problem. So it is concerning. It's definitely concerning. He had some nice passes in this game. Like, his distribution looks pretty good. But just defensively, it's been he's gone from having one of those a game to having several of those a game, and you can't be doing that.
Yeah, I want to say that if there's one healthy player who I am most concerned about at this point, it might be Jackson Reagan, because I kind of feel like Ferreira and Rusnak, if you can put better, they need to be better than they've been, but I'm just not as worried about their form. Whereas I am getting to the point where it's like there's something going on with Jackson that doesn't feel right, and it might be that he's had so many partners this year that maybe that's wearing on him. I'm looking at the Sounders lineups right now, and he has had, let's see, 6 different partners at center back, which feels like a lot.
It is. And there's a ton of weight on him. I mean, he's basically the veteran guy in the defense right now, and the defense has been getting shelled, and that can't be easy. So I'm sure there's a mental component to it. But I mean, if you're expected to be one of the leaders on this team.
Yeah. Yamar hasn't played since the 3rd game of the season.
It's crazy. It's very crazy. Yeah.
It is really crazy.
I know he's supposed to be back soon, but
yeah, I don't know. We don't know. He just got hurt there. I think the Sounders are actually not sure when he's going to be back.
Oh, that's right. Because he was supposed to be back and then got hurt. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So there's not a clear timeline for his return. So that's
wow.
Big sigh.
Yeah.
Center back a position you would actually want the Sounders to go out and if you're ranking, we can maybe talk about this in the second segment, but if you were ranking your needs list, who's at the top? What's at the top of your needs list for the Sounders?
Man, you could ask me this question once a day, every day for 3 days in a row and probably get a different answer. But I mean, I think for me, it's probably still central midfield. I like Snyder. I mean, we did this whole segment last year, but last week. But just to recap my feelings on the subject, I like Snyder Brunel a lot. I think that they could easily upgrade on him as, once Christian is back. I think that you could easily have a better partner for him. Right now, I think you could easily have a much better partner for Snyder than Hassani Dotson. So that's where I'd be focused. I would love to see another striker brought in, especially because I think Jordan Morris is anything you get from him this year is a bonus as far as I'm concerned at this point. But I think center back is right there. I mean, if for no other reason than you have to replace Yamar at some point, who knows when he's coming back this year. And if he does get back and Jackson continues to struggle, having somebody that you can give Jackson a break would certainly not be, something that wouldn't miss.
I do think Hawkins has the potential to be either a complement or a replacement for Reagan. So that's good.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. And he has looked very good, and I don't. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I agree. I think he's looked good in his limited time. He's not ready now to assume Jackson Reagan, but
right.
I've been encouraged by what I've seen from him. So we'll take that. I suppose. We should also probably talk a bit about the various fracasses that happened in this game, which was a weirdly heated affair. I kind of put it a little bit on the referee. This was a truly bizarrely refereed game because the referee seemed like he knew exactly what he was doing. Like there was not a matter of the referee's in over his head or anything like that. It was just like he was okay with the shenanigans. And the most obvious shenanigan that was going on in this game was Queretaro was delaying almost every free kick. Like they were standing in front of the ball. And he wasn't doing anything to create space. And so finally, late in the first half, Albert Rusnak just kicks the ball off the defender, which, as far as I know, is a yellow card. Like you're supposed to, if you aren't giving that space, that's supposed to be a yellow card.
Yeah.
And the referee just literally shrugged. It was like, what do you want me to do? I want you to give me the space. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was crazy. There were a couple of extremely obvious fouls where he very effusively told the player to get up. Yeah, just a very, very bizarre. I mean, I know that Liga MX refs tend to be a little less stringent, I guess you could say, but there's like they enforce the actual rules of the game, right? Like maybe they don't call fouls the way I'd want them to, and maybe they let a little bit of shithousing go more than I'd like, but like they're enforcing the space on the free kick rule, right? Like it was very, very strange.
Very, very, very strange. I can't help but think it contributed to the emotions being a little higher than normal. The first incident happens towards the end of the first half when Eric Duenas, a former LAFC player, comes flying into the Sounders bench, which, look, he's going after a loose ball, but he runs into Andrew Thomas, who didn't like it, and starts jawing with him. And then somehow it gets to a point where I guess maybe the player pushed Thomas, and then Max Anchor, the third goalkeeper, gets up and sort of pushes him back. And then all of a sudden, the benches from the Queretaro bench is flooding onto the Sounders bench. And look, nothing ended up happening, but I did think it was very funny that at least in the book, the only card is Max Anchor for shoving, and nothing for all the Queretaro players storming over, which, as far as I know, is not allowed. Like, you can't leave your own technical area in that situation. Very weird.
It was very, very weird because, like, I have to assume that the Queretaro player said something to Thomas, because, like, he would maybe? It's not like it didn't seem like he was just chasing a loose ball or whatever. And Andrew Thomas doesn't seem like the kind of guy to be like, hey man, don't touch me. Like it was very weird. It was a very weird little brawl there. And I kind of expected it to get worse because it was so bizarre that I assumed I had just missed something, but no, just everybody got up off the bench and got mad. All right.
Yeah. And then of course at the end of the game, Nouhou had been jawing with somebody earlier in the game, and then I guess Ferreira said something to somebody, and then that sort of started, like a little thing started, and then all of a sudden Nouhou is like inviting a Queretaro player to meet him in the tunnel, and is like these both players are sort of like heading to the tunnel to at least act like they're going to fight. And luckily Andrew Thomas steps in and is just like, no, what are you doing? This is stupid. But again, I don't know really what set that off, but for a game that didn't have a lot of real hard tackles, that was not super hotly contested, a lot of high emotions that were kind of weird.
Yeah, it was very strange. The Nouhou thing, like, there are a lot of things that Nouhou does that really bother me. This aspect of his personality, as long as people can keep him in check and he can keep himself in check and not actually do things that hurt the team, I'm kind of whatever about. Yeah. Like, he's a passionate guy. These guys, no offense, but the Queretaro players seemed like kind of a bunch of dicks. So I'm sure they said something to piss him off. Andrew Thomas picked him up and carried him away. That was very funny to watch. So I don't know. Like this one didn't bother me too much, but it was just like a weird, like nobody cares about this game yet. Like the Sounders know they're like they've already won.
I don't think they care. I don't think no.
I can't imagine that like they're getting paid either way, like a very weird one to get heated. I do think that the ref had something to do with it, but like there were like Snyder Brunel got just absolutely cleaned out like 3 minutes into the game before the ref had any chance to really, have any impact on the tenor of the game. So I think that they just kind of play that way, which, if like you're a lower table team in Liga MX, I think you kind of have to. But man, this is maybe one step above a friendly. We don't really got to be that way in a game like this, I don't think.
No. Well, that's about all I really had on this game. I don't think either one of us have big. I did write in the notes about Steph Fry. Look, he got a shutout. This is the Sounders. This is a crazy thing. For as good as the Sounders defense had been, they had not had a shutout in like 15 games. This was their first home shutout since the season opener, which is a pretty wild stat. I'll just say I am happy to have Steph be the goalkeeper during Leagues Cup. I still don't really entirely see the point of switching goalkeepers. I know people have been calling for that. No. I don't really understand what value that has.
I think that would be I think Andrew Thomas is a confident guy, so I don't want to say that would destroy his confidence. But if there was something that was going to destroy his confidence, I think getting benched after being one of the best keepers in the league before the break and then having the defense totally fall apart.
Right.
And then the mid-season competition where, like you won the job last year, more or less, having a guy who gave up 3 goals as good as he was against Toluca. I just don't. I think that I feel like there's probably an element of people who wanted Fry to be the starter all along feeling justified in that more than people.
Sure. Yeah.
Because of all the problems this team has had, I don't feel like Andrew Thomas has been one of them. And you got to find out if he's the guy going forward. You got to find out sooner than later because Steph Fry is not getting younger. So.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, let's leave it there. All right, we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk a little bit more about an interview that I did with Paul Tenorio and some of the stuff around the interview. That interview actually hasn't hit the public feed yet. That's going to come out on Wednesday. If you are a subscriber, though, we released it on Friday actually, and if you're a subscriber, it's on the private RSS feed. That's something that you get access to if you are a Sounder at Heart subscriber. I'll just note that that August is our most important month as a product of us starting our independence in August. And so we just have the most subscribers in August. So this is when most of a large portion of the site's income comes from August. So if you are someone who is a subscriber, I would just urge you to check and make sure that your payment information is up to date. And if you aren't a subscriber, consider becoming one because that's how we keep doing this whole thing. But let's take a break and we'll be back after that. You're listening to You're listening to Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. Sounder at Heart has been around in one form or another since 2009. In 2026, though, we make a pretty significant evolution when we go analog. Yes, that's right. In the year of our Lord 2026, we are publishing a real-life magazine. We're calling this thing 4, as in Sounder at Heart 4.0, but we're stylizing it as IV because we absolutely love Roman numeral. And if you want to refer to it as IV, that's cool too. The first issue has a comic book style cover that was hand-drawn by local artist Kevin Newber. Features by Tim Foss, Susie Rance, and Charlie Boehm, a statistical deep dive by Kat Bush, a Q&A with Brian Schmetzer, a column by G. Willow Wilson, and photographs by Noah Reif, Max Aquino, Mike Russell, and Jane Dershowitz. I could not possibly be more proud of the work everyone put into making this, and I think you're going to absolutely love it. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these limited edition copies, we're currently selling them for $15 on our website. Get yours now. Welcome back to Nos Arietes on the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. All right, so like I said, we did this interview with Paul Tenorio, essentially about Larry Berg, who is the new commissioner of MLS. He will officially take over on the job in 2027. So at the end of this season, I guess maybe at the end of this season, he'll take over as the official GM or the official commissioner, but he has already been appointed. And so the interview that I did with Tenorio, we mainly talked about how the Sounders might fit into this new world that MLS is heading into and sort of the impending CBA. And we talked a lot of, it was mostly about that, but sort of on the periphery of the story, and we didn't really get into this, but that's why it's on my mind, is a lot of stuff that's going on with the Sounders business. As we talked about on what we learned this week on Friday, Hugh Weber has left the Sounders to join the Edmonton Oilers. He is going to be the CEO of the whole organization that operates the Oilers and the Rogers Center. I think that's what it's called. And a whole other bunch of stuff that's in Edmonton. But that has left a leadership void. I shouldn't say that. It's not a leadership void. The Sounders are apparently turning over the business side to this whole C-suite of people that they hired under Hugh Weber. And this is all a long way of getting into the idea that there's this specter, I want to say, of the Sounders moving to Renton. They have said this on the record many times that they that they would like to build a stadium out in Renton. Now, it's mostly been framed sort of as an alternative to staying at Lumen Field. They have not said they are going to move. They have just said that they are exploring the possibility of moving. And talking to people in the organization, though, this seems to be where they're heading. Now, I have long argued that the way that they are doing this is sort of the worst of both worlds. On one hand, they are just sort of throwing this chum out into the water of saying, hey, we might move to Renton. And maybe they wanted to gauge what the public response to that was. But from what I can tell, everyone hates this idea. Like almost everyone that is a Sounders fan, that's certainly a season ticket member now, I have heard almost nothing but negativity. Maybe I'm going to be kind and say 20% of people have expressed a open-mindedness to this. Very few of them seem excited about it. But where I say this is the worst of both worlds is that they are sort of building up this, they're putting this thought out into the world, but then they're not following it up with any positivity, any reason to get excited about it. They're not putting out renderings. They're not talking about how great it's going to be. It's just sort of something that's simmering in the background. And it's sort of like building resentment, I think, among Sounders fans. And so what is already a challenging environment for the Sounders because of the season ticket renewals, because of the performance on the field and all this other kind of stuff, the Renton thing is just another thing that Sounders fans throw on to the pile of reasons they are frustrated with this team. And I don't know what my question to you is, Aaron, but it just, I guess I'm just venting a little bit, that it just seems like this whole idea of moving to Renton only is getting worse and not better.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Like the more I think about it, the more it seems like it might be a reality, and the more I start kind of preparing for the eventuality, the more perplexed I am about it. I understand the fear that, look, we have a relationship with the Allen family. They own, 25% of the club or whatever. We have a good arrangement at Lumen. Now there's new ownership at the Seahawks. They might not care about us at all. They might jack up our rent. They might, do things not only to, because I know one of the concerns with staying at Lumen is like, there's nothing about this that feels like our home. We don't have our own locker rooms. Everything in the stadium is Seahawks centric. And they're already having, a tough go of trying to get those things changed with the Allen family owning 25% of the team. These guys might make that stuff worse. Like they might, tell us we can't use the Seahawks dressing room, locker rooms anymore. They might not care about getting the football lines off the turf, all that kind of stuff, right? So I get that, right? But I don't think that's really that feasible because the Seahawks have a vested interest in the Sounders staying at
Yeah.
Lumen. They make a lot of money off of it. Like they make a ton of money in rent from the Seahawks being there.
Between the
and from
Sounders and
concessions
Rain,
and all that stuff.
they have anywhere between 30 and 40 events a year at Lumen Field. That's
right.
3 to 5. What, 5 times? No, it's like 3 times as many games as there are for the Seahawks on a good year.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe the new ownership would be even better to work with, right? Because they are invested in keeping the Sounders and Rain there. So maybe that's how they get the locker rooms built. Maybe that's how they get the turf replaced more often, or, don't want to reach for the stars here, but maybe that's how they get grass, right? Like, maybe that's how they get some Sounders specific signage in the stadium, right? Like it is having that incentive to keep them there. But to me, it's just like, that's a problem you deal with when it gets there. You don't make everything about the fan experience worse just because you're afraid of something bad happening at some point in the future. They have a lease through 2032, right?
2031, I believe.
That 2031. So they've got a lease for another 5 years. That whether or not the current Seahawks ownership, cares about them at all, they've got at least 5 years with the current terms, right? And I would assume that all of the stuff that's really important is in that lease. So it's not like the Seahawks can make, the game day experience worse, right? I'm sure getting rid of the football lines is part of that. I'm sure turf replacements on a regular schedule is part of that, all that stuff, right? So it just seems like such an overreaction to what might not even be a problem. It's you're moving from the central hub of the entire region, transit hub, but also transportation hub generally, right? Like every highway system in the region dumps out into downtown Seattle.
Basically, every bus in the city goes to downtown Seattle.
Right,
the whole region
ends up downtown. Yeah. I mean, Longacres is much closer to me than Lumen, and it would take like an hour longer for me to get there by transit. I'm not naive enough to think that any kind of corporate value statements are truly a reflection of anything other than good PR, but you can't make a big deal about your commitment to sustainability and, all of the stuff you're doing to like reduce carbon emissions and blah, 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 blah. And then move from a stadium in the middle of downtown Seattle in one of the most transit accessible locations on the West Coast. I don't even think that's arguable anymore. Like I cannot think of a better connected area than downtown Seattle transit wise for a regional transit hub on the West Coast. There are very few even in North America that come close to a stadium that you built on top of a wetland in the suburbs that has like 2 buses going by it.
Yeah.
And so if you do that, if you make that decision, all of that stuff about, believing in sustainability and reducing carbon emissions, you can't say that stuff anymore with a straight face. That's all gone. That's all out the window now, right? Like you just can't. And you do have to think about that stuff of like, how are you projecting the club? Like what kind of cultural institution do you want it to be? It's going to be a much different one if you move it out to the suburbs. I'll tell you that much. And I just think that there is so much tunnel vision and it feels like the only possible way this could still be so heavily considered is A, there's some kind of ticking time bomb with Lumen that we don't know about, which I'm pretty skeptical of, or B, there's just an echo chamber situation happening where the people in the Sounders front office that would be making this decision have fallen in love with the idea of it, and they are tuning out the noise. They're saying, well, people will come around or whatever. And like, look, to some degree, they probably will, but it's never, ever, ever going to be the same.
Well, and
you were just putting such a hard cap on your ceiling.
And you're also just sort of poisoning the well. I think there's a lot of people right now who, if things were going differently, and I mean, on the field, but also just the way that they were conducting their business. Like a long time ago, one of our readers had a theory that the Sounders were purposefully shrinking their fan base in order to not disappoint people when they move to Renton, so that they wouldn't have to tell more people not to.
Right.
They wouldn't have to call their season ticket list. They could just offer everyone on their season ticket list a ticket at in Renton, and that would work. I always thought that was a crazy theory, and it didn't make any sense. But it does. Like, I don't think that's what's happening. But if they were doing that, would they be doing anything differently than they are doing now? And I guess my point is that, look, if you want to build up goodwill, you should probably not do that. You should probably actually be making your product so attractive that you can sell basically as many tickets to no matter where you're playing. But they aren't doing that right now. So I don't know. My hope is that with Hugh Weber leaving, that creates an opening, because my understanding is that it wasn't Hugh's idea to move to Renton, but he was a big fan of it. He was a big cheerleader of that. And my hope is that with him out of the picture, that there is some chance for new voices to emerge in the organization that speak maybe a little bit more reason to the idea that staying in Seattle should be like the top priority of the team. Like, that is really, like, the Sounders are a Seattle team, and I would even argue more than maybe any other team that's ever been there, because so much of the Mariners fan base, so much of the Seahawks fan base has come from outside of the city, whereas a lot higher, it feels to me like a much higher percentage of the Sounders fan base is actually in the city. And I don't know, maybe this is an argument of saying, well, maybe we should be changing that, as misplaced as maybe that's what that is, but no one's saying that. And I guess I just wanted to really forcefully go on the record again and say, we got to, like, please, I hope that this is a chance to reset this narrative. There's a new Seahawks owner. Man, I am bummed out that the Seahawks owner sat down for an interview. They asked him about buying a basketball team, and they didn't ask him about buying the soccer team, right? Or getting involved in the soccer team that is literally already playing in your stadium. They asked him about grass, but they didn't ask him about the soccer teams. Very strange, but maybe he wants to come on our show and sit for an interview.
Yeah. Come on on.
Yeah,
come on, brother.
exactly.
We can talk about AI too. I
Totally.
got some questions for you about that stuff. His answer on grass I thought was pretty
I did
interesting
too.
though. Like, it was definitely not a no. It was an interesting one. It's definitely a I'm not making that decision answer, but
I mean,
hey, maybe there's
in
hope,
case you
but-
don't know, essentially what he basically said was, that's a decision that I'm going to leave up to the Seahawks people, to like the team, to this, like, he implied that it was a sporting decision, which, hey, if this becomes a sporting decision and not a business decision, I think that's really a point in Grass's favor, which, it's funny because, 5 years, as recent as play 5 years ago, I was sort of a, what I thought a pragmatist about the whole Grass thing. And I was just like, we're not getting Grass. Why are we even talking about this? But I had sort of turned a corner on that, and I have really turned a corner now that I saw what Grass could look like when it was there for the World Cup. And I would love it if we had Grass at Lumen Field. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that with the schedule change, that grass during football season is going to be rough, but I mean, whatever. Grass is rough in a lot of the world.
And look, everyone I've talked to about Grass at Lumen Field that really knows what they're talking about has basically said it's just a question of money. There are absolutely technologies out there that would allow us to have a grass pitch if we were willing to spend the money it took to upkeep it properly. That might be a lot of money, like a real lot of money, but there is a solution if you have enough money, and if the will is enough, if the will is really there, put grass in. So, we'll see.
And like, maybe there's a world where the Seahawks say, I know the NFLPA is heavily in favor of grass. Maybe there's a world where the Seahawks say we'd like grass, and the Sounders say, if you let us have our own locker rooms and you let us have our own signage, we will chip in for the grass.
Right. Yeah. Hey.
Like, we will not, like, we'll pay to make sure that the surface is good enough for us. It's going to be a lot cheaper than building a stadium in Renton. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, who knows? Look at that. Maybe we're almost ending on a hopeful note today. Maybe.
Yeah. And maybe we'll sign somebody tomorrow.
Hey, I will say that my conversations with people in the front office have been more positive. No one guaranteeing anything, but for the first time in a long time, I would say I am cautiously optimistic that some sort of signing is going to get done. Maybe even 2. Who knows? The Sounders have about 3 weeks to do this. I would like to not wait for 3 weeks, though. It would really be nice if we could kind of get this done sooner than later.
That would be good. I mean,
I was going to say, it's not looking great that it will be Casper Tengstedt, who looks like he might be heading to somewhere in Greece or Turkey. But I will also say that the people I was talking to, that was the name I had. And I know that negotiations have been going on with Feyenoord over Tengstedt, but that there was other players who they were more optimistic about signing, whose names I don't have. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. It's, I think any kind of signing that's not a defined signing or
an academy,
a trade for a rotational MLS guy, or academy signing would be welcome. I shouldn't say that because Montreal just signed Alexis Sanchez. So there are signings they could make that would piss me off, but
as a DP,
that doesn't seem
like DP. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
they really got to Chivas USA, that team, man.
We need a team like that. All right. Well, let's get out of here. Thank you to our sponsor, Full Pool Wines. Another shout out to our subscribers and a request that if you enjoy what we do on this show, if you want to help us expand and continue growing and offering you more and varied content, consider becoming a subscriber yourself. Plans start as low as $3 a month or $30 a year and go up from there. It's like less than a cup of coffee these days, right? That's the thing. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. For the price of a oat milk latte, you could become a what do we call them? A supporter of Sounder at Heart, which is like $7 a month. That is literally less than a medium oat milk latte in the city. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
I mean, usually if I go and get a pour over after tip, it's
that's what I'm saying. That's not pour over.
So
that's just coffee. Yeah, that's just coffee.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get out of here. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Lickett. I'm Jeremiah Oshan, signing off for No Sadietes, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. And remember, you'll never get alone.
Let's go Sounders.